Hello everybody, and welcome to a very special video here on the channel. Today I am excited to bring you not one, not two, but 5 brand new preview cards from the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth expansion. Thank you so much to Wizards of the Coast for giving me these free preview cards so that I can share my excitement for this set with all of you in the form of some brand new cards. So really huge shout out to Wizards of the Coast. My first card is an iconic creature from Lord of the Rings, Eagles of the North. It's 5 and a white for a 3/3 flyer, bird soldier. When Eagles of the North enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn, and it has plain cycling for a single mana. Now for starters, this card is excellent for limited because as a big top end flyer that can have a huge impact on the game when it comes into play, it'll enable a big attack from you. It's the exact sort of card that you're hoping to top deck in the late game. But because it has plain cycling, you can actually afford to run this in your deck because in the early turns of the game, it'll find you the land drops you need to actually deploy your game plan. And because the plain cycling only costs a single mana, it's actually a great card to have in both your opening hand and also late in the game. Now to get to the part I'm really excited about to explain how this card is a perfect fit for the flavor of Eagles of the North. Because the whole thing with the Eagles in the Lord of the Rings is that they kind of come in as the bailout guys at the end of a big fight to turn the tide of battle and absolutely win it for the good guy team. And the reason this card fits that perfectly is because in the late game, when you have a board stall, this is going to be the exact card in your deck that you're hoping to draw. The Eagles are coming, the Eagles are coming. My next draw step, I'm sure it's going to be the Eagles. My next draw step, I'm sure it's going to be the Eagles, which is just absolutely perfect for the flavor of this card because the card that you want to top deck most is also the card that the heroes wanted to have show up the most in their battles. Plane cycling is also pretty good with this because I think if you imagine the way an eagle would be scouting out a plane, it kind of does help you find whatever you need when you are on a plains because they have sharp eyes, and on a plains there's nowhere for the enemy to hide or the thing you're looking for to hide. So very great flavor and an excellent card for limited. Next up is Birthday Escape, which is a story moment that is absolutely iconic in Lord of the Rings. For a single blue mana, you get a sorcery that says draw a card, the ring tempts you. And I think that for limited, this can actually be pretty useful because it's a small cantrip. There are some card draw synergies in the set, so that's useful for that. And also having the ability to have the ring tempt you for just a single mana means that you can change who your ring bearer is, which can certainly be relevant. And it's a very low cost way to do that. So from a card power level standpoint, I think this card is actually going to see play in draft. But now to the flavor aspect of it, which is once again my favorite part. Birthday Escape depicts the scene where Bilbo Baggins disappears and leaves Hobbiton forever. As Bilbo finished his speech, he slipped the ring on his finger and he was never seen by any hobbit in Hobbiton again. And so basically what's happening is Bilbo is having his 111th birthday party, and it's kind of a joint birthday party with Frodo because Frodo's also having his birthday party, and Bilbo gives this big speech and then he says goodbye and he puts the ring on his finger and disappears, and none of the hobbits ever see him again, and they're just like, oh my gosh, Bilbo always was a crazy old guy, and he kind of goes off to live with Elrond for the rest of Lord of the Rings. It's also a key story moment because after he puts this ring on for the last time, Bilbo gives the ring to Frodo, which is something that he has that no character really ever in Lord of the Rings has been able to do in the past, is willingly give up the one ring, which is just an absolutely like iconic part of Bilbo's backstory because he is the one that has that like inner strength to give up the ring, and pretty much everyone else has struggled with that historically. Even Frodo struggles to give up the ring at the end, and actually has to have Gollum bite it off of his finger in order for it to go into Mount Doom at the end. So it's really iconic that Bilbo is able to give up the ring. And I think it's great that the card says the ring tempts you because the ring pretty much is depicted in the story as whenever it gets put on, the ring tempts you is put onto the card. So awesome card, and I really love this one as well. Also, the artwork is just absolutely stunning. I love the way they've done the light onto the tent. It really just kind of shows like party on the inside of the tent and then beautiful night outside. Just absolutely love it with the footprints and everything. So just beautiful card. My next card is Claim the Precious. It's 1 black for a sorcery, destroy target creature, the ring tempts you. This is premium removal for limited, absolutely excellent card. You can destroy a creature for 3 mana, and then the ring tempts you, which is going to get you a little bit of an extra advantage, and you can change who your ring bearer is. Once again, my favorite part is the story aspect of the card though, because this depicts another critical scene in the story. I think it is a sad story, and it might have happened to others, even to some hobbits that I have known. Gandalf. And what this is depicting is the scene where Gollum, formerly known as Smeagol, so at this point in his life he is still Smeagol, has killed his friend Deagle in order to take the ring. So what's happening is it's Smeagol's birthday. He's hanging out with his friend Deagle. Gollum kind of goes off into the forest, or Smeagol goes off into the forest a little bit, and Deagle is fishing on this boat, and Deagle gets pulled into the water by this giant fish. And when he's at the bottom, he lets go of his line, at the bottom of the river that is, and because he sees something shiny, and he goes into the dirt, grabs it, and it turns out it is the ring. And he swims back to the shore. He's kind of sitting there wet, and Smeagol walks up and he says, "Give it to me, Deagle." And Deagle says, "No, dude, I found this." And Smeagol says, "But it's my birthday. Give it to me as a birthday present." And Deagle says, "Bro, I just gave you a birthday present. And it was already a really good birthday present. This is mine. I found it." And then Smeagol kills him. And it's really sad because that then turns Smeagol into Gollum, essentially. He starts like kind of going down this insanity spiral where he kind of becomes an outcast in his village, because once he realizes that he can use the ring to turn invisible, he starts kind of using it for evil, where he starts overhearing people, listening to them, their conversations, and then using the like kind of gossip he gets to kind of be mean to people and like do all this kind of messed up stuff. And so they eventually kick him out of the village, and then he goes and kind of becomes Gollum because he goes into the mountains of mist, and that's where he kind of goes deeper into the cave and stuff. And so this is kind of the beginning of the end for Gollum's life, almost. Essentially, he like enters the slow spiral down to being Gollum instead of Smeagol, which is pretty brutal. But this kind of depicts it perfectly. He hides the body behind the bushes, which is also kind of represented in the story by the fact that they never found Deagle's body. But yeah, this is the reason Gandalf is telling this to Frodo, this story to him, is because he wants him to kind of understand what happens to people that have the ring, and also to understand that what happened to Gollum could happen to really anybody that becomes too attached to the ring, because Gollum came from a race of people that was, or Smeagol came from a race of people that is, they're both kind of the same person, Gollum, Smeagol, but he came from a race that was very similar to hobbits in many ways. The next card I have is Breaking of the Fellowship, which, again, the story moment is absolutely iconic. They've nailed it with this artwork. I absolutely love it. But first, we'll talk about the card itself. 1 on a red. For a sorcery, target creature an opponent controls deals damage equal to its power to another target creature that player controls. The ring tempts you. We have seen this sort of effect before on a card called Mutiny, which cost a little bit less but didn't have the ring tempts you text. And I think that this one is a little bit weaker in limited just because it's a little bit more situational to set up. But the card itself, I couldn't have imagined almost a better way for this card to be worded to reflect the story aspect of the card. Because as you can see from the flavor text, it might have been mine, it should be mine, give it to me. And this is when Boromir is talking to Frodo and tries to take the ring from him. And this is, the card is called Breaking of the Fellowship, which is actually like the name of the chapter at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring, because it is really the end of the Fellowship. Because what's happening here is Frodo has to make the decision on whether they're going to cross the river or whether they're going to continue on to Minas Tirith with the ring, to kind of get help from Gondor in bringing the ring into Mordor, or to just hang out there for a little bit. And Boromir is from Gondor, he's from Minas Tirith, and he wants to go that way, and then the other option is to just go straight into Mordor with the ring and the Fellowship. And Frodo kind of has this big decision to make. He goes off by himself to think about it, and then Boromir goes off to like give him counsel and basically make his case for why they should go to Minas Tirith. And as Boromir is kind of giving him this advice, he basically is saying, Frodo, we can use the ring to help fight the Dark Lord, because Boromir at this point has been his entire life pretty much a huge warrior for Minas Tirith, and he's been watching kind of his city and his people get like slowly losing this war against the Dark One. And so it's really painful for him to see that, and he thinks, oh my gosh, we have this super weapon. We can use the ring against Sauron, we can use it against the Dark Lord. And if we have someone like me wielding the ring, we can start winning these battles and actually turn the tide of this war, and my people can actually be victorious, which is so, it's like incredibly relatable, but incredibly sad at the same time, because every person that is tempted by the ring thinks that they can use it without falling prey to the Dark Lord or Sauron, which is pretty much the story of Isildur, the guy that first had the ring and could have thrown it into Mount Doom immediately. He thought he could use it better than others, but the ring always finds a way to kind of turn that badly on the people that are going to use it. And so Boromir thinks he can use the ring better than other people in this moment, which is absolutely beautiful artwork, because it shows kind of Boromir towering over Frodo. Frodo's kind of afraid, and Boromir, who would normally be seen as this like hero figure that like really is the defender of the group, he looks kind of like a little bit evil, because he's like, the ring is tempting him. And the ring tempts you is perfect in this sense on the card, because it not only is the ring tempting Boromir, but Frodo also puts on the ring in order to escape from Boromir. And Boromir, as soon as Frodo kind of runs away after going invisible, he kind of realizes that he's been turned mad by the ring, and he like kind of starts almost crying, I think, and starts calling for Frodo to look for him. But what happens here is Frodo has kind of run away, and he's kind of reflecting, and he realizes that as he is going on this quest, the ring is only going to continue to tempt his friends and start to tear the party apart. So he decides to go off by himself. And so he starts going off. He decides to like take a boat, cross the river, and go into Mordor by himself. But when Boromir gets back to the rest of the gang, he's like, Frodo's gone. I don't know where he is. I thought he was with you guys. All of the hobbits kind of scatter. So Merry, Pippin, they kind of run off. And then Gimli and Legolas also run off to go look for him. They kind of run off in little pairs. Sam is running off. Aragorn chases after Sam and says, we got to stick together, dude. Aragorn tells Boromir, go after Merry and Pippin, don't let anything happen to them. And so it's kind of the breaking of the fellowship, because it goes from this little gang of people, and they and hobbits and dwarves and elves, and they all kind of go their separate ways after this moment. Because what happens is then Merry and Pippin end up getting captured by Uruk-hai. Boromir dies trying to defend them from the Uruk-hai. Gimli and Legolas end up eventually reuniting with Aragorn to go chase after Merry and Pippin. And then Frodo, Sam is originally with Aragorn, but Aragorn kind of outpaces him as he attempts to get to this hill to like look for Frodo. Sam kind of uses his wits to figure out, oh, Frodo's going off by himself. That's the exact Frodo thing to do, because Sam is a good friend with Frodo, and so he goes off and finds Frodo, and then they both go into Mordor together. So it's kind of like the breaking of the fellowship. They could not have depicted this card better, because it's your own creatures turning on you. I know I've gone on about this card a lot, but I just absolutely love it, and the story is just brilliantly done. My final card depicts what may be one of my favorite scenes in all of Lord of the Rings, Rally at the Hornburg, and the card itself is actually quite strong. 1 and a red for a sorcery, create 2 1/1 human soldier creature tokens. Humans you control gain haste until end of turn. So this card, just making 2 1/1s for 1 card, is oftentimes really quite nice. And if you have a token strategy, or sometimes even an equipment strategy, this is the sort of card that you're going to be looking for, because you want to have creatures that can wield equipments or creatures that can be part of your go-wide strategy. And this is just the sort of card that is oftentimes a staple in limited formats and has historically been pretty strong. Now into the story aspect of this card, because this happens in the Battle of Helm's Deep, and it's actually a really iconic moment in the story that is just fantastic. With a cry and a great noise they charged, down from the gates they roared, over the causeway they swept, and they drove through the hosts of Isengard as a wind among grass. Because what's happening in this part is they've been battling at Helm's Deep, which is the ancient stronghold of Rohan, essentially. It's called the Hornburg is the name of the stronghold, and it is at Helm's Deep, so that's why it's called Rally at the Hornburg. And basically, Theoden is in there with Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas and stuff like that. Actually, Gimli is kind of out and about, kind of in a different section of the fortress. But basically, Theoden goes to Aragorn and he says, look, we're trapped in this castle. The orcs are closing in. We can either wait in here to die, or we can charge out and go down guns blazing, essentially. And so he says, I don't want to die in here trapped like a badger in his den, I think is the line. And then he says, Aragorn, will you join me? And so him and Aragorn kind of ride out and lead this glorious cavalry charge, which then sweeps away the opposing orcs. And then it kind of lines up perfectly with the arrival of the Rohan reinforcements, kind of led by Gandalf, which is maybe the best scene in the entire movie series, but also just an incredible scene in the book as well. So really an awesome scene. I think they do a good job with this one by making it the sort of thing that when you play it, it's like, okay, cool. My humans gain haste. They're charging out. I have a couple like he rallies his forces to go. It's not like an insane, it's not an insane game-winning effect, because they kind of went out of that in that charge, kind of knowing that they weren't necessarily going to make it out, but that it ended up working out because it kind of ended up being they charged out, and that also the reinforcements arrived, and it was overall very effective for them. But yeah, that is going to do it for my preview cards. Which one was your favorite? Which story moment was your favorite? What are you thinking of the set so far? I can't wait to hear your thoughts, but I'm so excited for this Lord of the Rings set. As you can tell by all of the background info I was providing, I cannot wait for this set. I'm absolutely loving the cards that I've seen. I think they nailed the flavor, nailed the cards, and I cannot wait to see what they do with this set, and I can't wait to play with the cards. I'm just overwhelmingly excited for this set. But that is going to do it for this video. Thanks again to Wizards of the Coast for the preview cards. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It really does mean a lot to me to get to participate in the preview season for what is my favorite fantasy franchise. And I read the Hobbit book 6 times, so I was, when I saw this set was going to be happening, I was like, oh my gosh, it would be an honor to participate in the preview season. And so I am so grateful that I got to do just that and share some of these cards with all of you. They're awesome designs, and I'm so glad that I got the ones that depict story moments and key characters like that. That's going to do it for this one, though. If you did make it all the way till the end of the video, leave hashtag the story rocks, because Lord of the Rings does rock, the story rocks, to let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video. But I will talk to you next time with plenty more Lord of the Rings content coming your way.